Good morning. My name is Carolina Kirby-Lucier, and we will be beginning the webinar now. Thanks for joining us today, and happy Tuesday. I will be your moderator, and I will be introducing you to your speakers. We will be keeping the webinar to about 45 minutes and then leaving time at the end for questions and answers. Feel free to input your question at any time here in the participant feedback section, and we'll be sure to get to you after the webinar. And also after the webinar, we will be sending you a copy of the presentation and the recording so that you can have that for reference and share with any colleagues that may also enjoy it. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about how you can transform your business with supply chain artificial intelligence and how to modernize your infrastructure. So with that, we're going to just kick things off with a quick introduction of who's on the line and who our guest speakers are. And then we're going to dive into the content, which is how does supply chain AI really optimize your inventory? How can it really change your business? And why join the digital transformation? We'll provide real-world examples of how it's working in the industry right now. And we'll discuss how to leverage integrated business planning and how to set up an AI-friendly infrastructure. So you kind of need to have that backbone to go along with it. And then Roger from the LightEdge team will discuss how to understand hosting, your management options, and how that fits into things like your IBM hosting. And again, we'll leave time at the end for questions. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to our speakers. And Shri, if you'd like to kick us off.
Yes, good afternoon, Carolina. This is Shri Rajagopalan, President and CEO of Murano Corporation and an ex-IBMer, along with my colleague Jerry Kopecki, also fellow ex-IBMer.
And I'm Roger Melman. I'm with LightEdge, and I'm the Director of Business Development for Enterprise Solutions, with a pretty strong focus around IBM product offering. So who is LightEdge? LightEdge is we're a premier enterprise-grade cloud and co-location provider located primarily in the Midwest. We deliver highly secure, compliant cloud and data center services. One of the things to note is that our data center presence expands from Des Moines to Omaha to Kansas City to Austin to Raleigh, North Carolina. We have over 22 years of experience providing what I would call compliant solutions around manufacturing, transportation, financial services, and the healthcare organizations. And we do that through our Tier 3 compliant data centers as well as our compliant infrastructure as a service cloud platforms. And that spans from everything from VMware, Hyper-V, IBM AS400 or IBM I, AIX, and mainframe. So in our, as we're working with customers who's basically adopting digital transformation or going through the whole digital transformation phase, here are the conversations that we're typically having at the C-suite level. Typically, the CEOs, the board of directors, what they're really concerned with is how do they improve their bottom line growth for their organization? How do they transform their business to be more competitive? How do they focus on engaging their customers to deliver quality services and products? How do they increase productivity within their organization? And then most importantly, how do they meet security compliance demands that's being leveled against their organizations? And then how do they strengthen organizational resilience? And I think the bigger question is why adopt digital transformation? As we've all seen over the span of the last 10 years, a lot of organizations or a lot of companies, mainstream companies, have had to adjust their business offering. The list of companies that I've got highlighted on the screen today, I think we're all familiar with these name brands, but the impact to these organizations from having to close down their brick and mortar locations to actually going out of business. This is the reason why a lot of the companies that we talk to on a daily basis are adopting cloud transformation or digital transformation. How do I get more information out of the data that I'm already using? And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sri.
Thank you, Roger. So before we get Jerry and I get started on our part, so we have a quick question for you. In terms of supply chain AI or cloud, so the question is, what's holding your organization back from implementing this type of solution? And is it the knowledge constraints? Is it cost budgeting limitations, resource constraints, or technology limitations? So if you could type the response to that in the chat window, that would be great while we move on to the next slide. So Jerry and I, we are, like I said, we're a couple of ex-IBMers who worked with manufacturing companies, large and small, and this is something that we see as a common problem, lots of inventory. In 2014, U.S. manufacturers had $1.7 trillion of unsold inventory. So that's 1.7 trillion with 12 zeros. And 50% of these total assets, of these manufacturers' assets were tied up in unsold inventory, accounts receivable, and accounts payable. So as you can see, these are big numbers, and manufacturers are uniformly struggling with excess inventory. And the ex-CEO, like the ex-CEO of Caterpillar said, a company that manages supply chain best is more successful than its competition every time. And our goal is to help companies attack excess inventory problem. But to be more precise, actually, it's not just excess inventory. It's making sure that they handle this Bi-Modal inventory distribution effectively. By that I mean that companies need to make sure they have the right amount of the right stuff and very little of the stuff they really don't need. So we want to, that's what's called Bi-Modal inventory distribution, and we want to make sure that the companies have inventory in the middle of this chart here, and not on the two sides of it. So if you have too much, this is too much of the wrong stuff, too little of the right stuff, and you want to be in the middle here to optimize your inventory, and that's what we want to attack. And that's where supply chain AI comes in. That's going to be extremely valuable to organizations. And as a success story, one of our customers, which is an auto supply chain, it's an automotive tier 1 supplier to Honda, they were able to use supply chain AI to reduce inventory by $1 million in 4 weeks by using advanced AI technologies and AI concepts. And the solution for that is using our platform, but it runs in LightEdge data center. So we are a customer of LightEdge. Our solution, the supply chain AI solution, runs in one of their data centers, actually here in Raleigh. And that was used by this Honda tier 1 supplier to reduce inventory by $1 million in 4 weeks by using advanced AI. So our goal, again, is to help manufacturers attack this Bi-Modal inventory distribution problem using supply chain AI.
Right, and what we have here and what you're seeing here on the screen here is what I call a camel drawing, because you're trying to eliminate the humps. You're trying to get in the middle. And every manufacturing concern looking at their supply chain has either too much or not enough. Too much, you're paying way too much for your inventory, and you're paying stuff for inventory that you have, safety stock, whatever, or you don't have enough, and on horrors, your line is being shut down because you don't have what you need to produce. what you're supposed to be making, what you're supposed to be manufacturing. So we're trying to use AI with the software to eliminate the humps. We're trying to get folks into the middle, eliminate the humps, eliminate the, I'll call it the two Bi-Modal camel aspects of this drawing.
And the common theme throughout the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll talk about this, and if you can take away one key point from this talk today, is that if you lack visibility to what's happening within the four walls of your organization, and if you lack visibility to what's happening around you, meaning your supply chain, then you're going to rely on historical data to develop forecasts to decide on your future replenishment patterns and replenishment strategies. And as we all know, forecasts are inherently inaccurate, and having visibility to what's happening within your four walls and outside your four walls with the extended supply chain is the key to attacking this problem, the Bi-Modal inventory distribution. So to give you a simple example, take a look at, if you use Google Maps today, while you're going from point A to point B, when Google tells you there's going to be a traffic jam ahead of you 5 miles from where you are right now, and then tells you accurately based on real-time data, that's much better than using historical forecasts to say this I-95 corridor is going to be traffic prone. Now, if what Google is doing with Google Maps, that's real-time data. That's what we want to get to for manufacturers. That's the predictive capability. Now, the prescriptive capability is when Google Maps tells you, here's an alternate route. It's going to take you 3 minutes less than this current route because of the traffic jam. It's on your current route, and that's the prescriptive capability. So when you combine that integration, the supply chain integration, supply chain visibility, so in our case, that's the supply chain integration, supply chain visibility, predictive intelligence, and prescriptive capabilities, that's the core to attacking Bi-Modal inventory distribution, and that's what gives you supply chain. That's what we call supply chain AI. So all that combined for manufacturers can be a powerful tool in attacking the inventory problem.
Right, and notice that he's talking about historical data within your four walls, not so accurate. You may have a 1 to 3% error rate. Well, when you're talking about growth, 1 to 3% is not very efficient. It's not very good. And so you want to have visibility not only to within your own four walls, but the relevant four walls around you, i.e. your suppliers. In Google Maps, you want to know four walls of what's going on with what other people are reporting, what other suppliers have, and you want that integrated with where you are. So that's what we're talking about, and that's what AI will help you with.
Now, if you're a planner or if you're in the replenishment side of things, supply side planning for your organization, and if you spend more time collecting data and making them into creating pretty spreadsheets, if that's what you're doing today, supply chain AI can be a tremendous time saver, and then also it can provide you a lot more capabilities than what you're doing today. So today, if you are in level 1, level 2, if your organization level 1, level 2, or level 3 at best, we want to help you get to level 4 and level 5 with supply chain AI. Spend less time collecting data in pretty spreadsheets, more time analyzing the data, more time improving your processes and measuring the results, and that's what I want to help you get to. And to us, both Jerry and I, for us, the spreadsheets are the biggest enemies to organizations. It's a time, it consumes a lot of time, right, Jerry? And the moment
exactly.
you go ahead.
No, I'm saying exactly because, Sri and I's hidden agenda, if you will, is we want to kill spreadsheets, how they're used with helping you with your supply data, supply chain analysis. We want to kill those spreadsheets because there's so much better, software out there that can help you get from the level 1s, 2s, and 3s into more making some analysis decisions, improvement decisions, and spending all your time on the analysis of your data, your supplier's data, and helping you become not just a data gatherer. And that's what we're seeing today. Most people collect the data. Okay, that's good, but let's move on. Let's get beyond that. Let's get beyond the data gathering stage.
That's right. All right. So what is supply chain AI? And Jerry and I went back and forth. I said it's a noun. He said, no, it's not a noun and all that. But in any case, the supply chain AI, it's about predictive intelligence and prescriptive capabilities. And from a supply chain context, it's invaluable in using data to foresee disruptions and forecast demand, inventory planning, and utilizing resources more efficiently. So like Jerry said, no spreadsheets, no paper. It's integrated data, integrating a lot of different sources of information, powerful analytics and predictive side and machine learning. But the core of it is letting computers do what they do best and letting humans do what we do best. And the thing that I want to highlight is there's this perception out there that AI is out to replace humans, but that's far from the truth. It's all about the augmentation, human augmentation part of it, where the humans can do what we do best, making better decisions, but the computers can do what they do best, which is crunching through a lot of data, collecting a lot of data, seeing patterns in the data, doing some machine learning, but then helping human beings make better decisions. And that's what our focus is.
That's right. And not only is it, as we said, predicting and improving your forecast, it's also allowing the other two aspects of what I call AI, and that's the monitoring and measure of your data, what's really going on, a measurement of reality out there, not just within your own four walls, but what your suppliers are providing you. So again, it's predictive, monitoring, and measuring, and telling you the results so that you can get into the analysis role. So much better to improve your company perspective of what makes you different than the guy down the street, guy across the state, the nation, the world. So again, it's helping you differentiate from your competitors.
All right, so as far as the intelligent augmentation concerned, we see 5 elements to this. So number 1 is the fast data processing, crunching through lots of data very quickly, and that includes data from within your 4 walls, outside your 4 walls, big data like weather, traffic, etc., bringing all that into a single platform. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and not in a spreadsheet, the second thing is eliminating human bias. The third is the simplified user interaction. So gone are the days when you have extremely complex systems, and I recall the days when I had to go through 2 weeks of SAP training just for its inventory management modules, 2 weeks. And at the end of it, I still didn't know the complete the capabilities because it was so complex and complicated in terms of its design. But those days are long gone. Now the systems are fairly intuitive. If you know how to do your job, if you know the functions of your job, then you should be able to pick up a system fairly quickly. So that's the key thing, is simplified user interaction in an interface. And number 4,
and
Jerry already talked about.
Let me interrupt here, Sri, because the simplified user interaction is, how many of you guys have what's documentation or documented with manuals that are probably out of date that tell you to go from this point to that point to that point? How come it's not simplified? How come it's not codified? Not something that's out there in a manual that's out of date, but something that is, again, using an overworked word, intuitive of what you do with your business. So simplified in the sense of it's reducing that size of the user manuals that you need.
That's right. And number 4, we covered that. And number 5, fast and effective decision making. So I'll give you an example. If Home Depot is going to download a bunch of its data, point of sale data, into Excel spreadsheets, and then try to decide if there's a pattern in its sales, look for seasonal sales of various products, etc. And by the time it downloads it, looks for patterns, Amazon is probably used real-time data including new home ownership and home sales and collecting all that data, and that's going to drive, and they're going to proactively reach out to the new homeowner and say, hey, we have this great deal on a lawn maker. That would you be interested in buying that, right? That's what's going to happen. That's what Amazon is going to be doing. Whereas Home Depot, they will not know about anything about the new homeowner until that person walks into their store. So that's the big difference. So the AI in Amazon, they will be able to predict when a new homeowner is going to need a lawnmower versus Home Depot waiting for the buyer to walk into or a potential customer to walk into its store. That's where the power of AI is, and that's what we want to get our manufacturers to, where take them from spreadsheets and the old archaic systems to being able to predict when the customer is going to need some parts so you can plan your raw material purchases better.
Right, and we're seeing these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What you're seeing here on the screen, the augmentation, or what I call a smarter tool set to use to analyze your data. It's all being driven by, guess what? Good old number one there, data. That is growing exponentially. And if you want me to come and prove my point, just look at the difference between what you have in your traditional structured databases and what's called unstructured data, i.e., for instance, an example, pictures. How do I know that? How do I integrate that within what I have now? Do I integrate that with a spreadsheet? I think you would have some problems.
So many companies have spent billions, literally billions, on an ERP software, and you're going, so where does that leave us, right? In our mind, and both Jerry and I have gone through multiple ERP implementations, and we've been doing this for many years, and we see ERP software as landlines, or like I say, like typewriters. They're the equivalent of typewriters. There's a significant paradigm shift, and where spreadsheets and ERPs are being replaced by more advanced software. Amazon doesn't have ERP software. They haven't implemented ERP software, so they have supply chain AI. So what you get with supply chain AI is they are like smartphones. You can do a lot more than what landlines can do. It's a landline plus, 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 plus. And plus, you can predict things with supply chain AI. So you have, as a company, you have a couple of options. Now, if you're extremely conservative as an organization, then you can put a wrapper around your current existing ERP software. The supply chain AI can act as a wrapper, and then it can provide the predictive capabilities that comes along with supply chain AI. So it's going to be a landline plus a smartphone. So think about when first smartphones came out, companies, people said, homeowners said, we would like to have a landline because we can call 911 with smartphones, but then they had a smartphone with a landline. So that's option A. Option B is you can cut the cord completely and replace your landline with a smartphone. And there are benefits to both approaches, but it comes down to your level of appetite for the change and all that. But the disruption is also minimal with newer technologies. The old ERP was very disruptive, but in the newer platforms, things can be done with minimal disruption and a lot more efficiently and effectively and cost effectively as well.
Right, and what was mentioned here was the paradigm shift from the landlines into the smartphone. Well, paradigm is good, but I think it's more descriptive. Instead of paradigm, we use paraquarters. Sorry,
okay.
Little pun there.
I like that. All right, Jerry, this is your favorite slide now. Go ahead. You want to take
all right, so what we
seconds?
have here and what we're seeing here is what are the components of AI, artificial intelligence. And I break that down into psychology of learning. And if you know anything about psychology of learning, you know the good old stimulus response reinforcement, the Skinner box, the Pavlovian, I have to pronounce that correctly, Pavlovian model of human behavior, human learning, where you have the stimulus. And in this case, it's the data. You have a response. Okay, what's going to happen there? And then reinforcement. And the reinforcement should come from your software. so that you get into this stimulus response reinforcement loop, if you will. And that is what I call one of the primary lower level components of AI.
Okay. All right. So, Jerry and I would like to classify supply chain AI into 4 levels. So there's level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. So level 0 is with all humans. You're doing spreadsheets, no AI, pretty much all spreadsheets and macros. And you're collecting the data, you're analyzing it, you're reviewing it, and then you have very little time to make good decisions, right, after you spend all that time. In level 1, what we're doing is we're taking more data, including your supply chain data, and then the computer is collecting the data but letting human beings analyze and review and take action. And then level 2 is where the computer can go a step further and they can analyze and then let human do the review. And then final level 3 is where computer is able to collect the data, analyze the data, review it, and also make decisions and take actions. So it's a gradient, it's a spectrum, and as you go from level 0 to level 1 to level 2, you will progressively start to see the benefits. And our customer in South Carolina, they were able to go from level 0 to level 2, or I'd say 1.75 to be precise, and they have been able to see significant cost savings because of this, and significantly higher inventory turns.
Correct. And what you're seeing here, constant theme from going to level 0 to level 3 is the increasing, or I should say decreasing speed that you can do so much more data in, so much more faster, much more responsive. It doesn't take you days, weeks. It takes you minutes, hours, and down into seconds, because you don't want to take a couple of weeks, for instance, to close your books every month, right? How many folks take, at least 7, 8 days to close their books every month? So today's October 2nd. I'm not going to know what I'm doing for September up to this point until I officially close my books. And that will be in maybe, if I'm lucky and I don't have any aberrations with my data or, missing things, next week. Well, guess what? That's not a very good answer.
Okay, so in terms of use cases, you're asking, so what kind of use cases do we have for the supply chain professionals? So, but before I answer that, the fundamental thing is supply chain AI can operate your business. You can use it to run your business. You can use it to run your business better, and you can use it to, like I said, predict what's going to happen in the future and prescribe what you need to do better. All these things are combined, and not just to look back, as we call business intelligence. So as Roger talked about digital transformation, the digital transformation includes establishing an operational data store that can be used to run your business. This includes the predictive capability. It includes the prescriptive capability. It includes the business intelligence that you're all looking for and that you've used to in the past. But it combines all this in a single solution. And for these use cases we're talking about here, whether it's invoice matching from suppliers, demand sensing or supply planning, or supplier defect pattern tracking, these are 4 good examples where AI can provide tremendous value add and cost savings.
This last one here, defect pattern tracking. Well, how many folks reject what their suppliers are sending them due to some error? The product that your supplier is sending you is not matching the specs with which you gave that supplier. How do you know that? How do you operate that quickly? Well, a lot of what you can do is, okay, let's take a picture of it and let's analyze that picture and tell me if I've got specs of what I'm expecting and I know what, whatever it is, say it's a lock mechanism. Okay, I know that this is what a good lock mechanism looks like. I know its characteristics. I know its specs. So let's take a picture of it. Let's analyze that picture. Ooh, by the way, let's use the computer to do that. I don't want to do that. And I accept it or reject it. If I reject it, what happens to it? Does it get sent back to supplier? Does it get sent back to your scrap heap? Does your supplier try to fix it? Does your supplier then try to send it to you again? And you go through the whole process again? So that's what I call a very good use case for something quality to match this defect pattern tracking.
Okay, so supply planning. So here's an example, days of supply planning. So if you're doing raw material planning, how many of you rely on forecast data to make future purchases? How many of you actually include demand from your customers to make future purchases? And then how many of you plan based on days of supply versus actual quantities? And how many of you actually use spreadsheets to do all of the above, right? So think about this. Now, if you have supply chain AI with days of supply kind of capability like this, you can see the top 10 materials with too much inventory and the bottom 10 materials with too little inventory. Going back to the Bi-Modal inventory distribution, this mirrors the two humps of the camel that we showed in the Bi-Modal inventory distribution. Here you have too much of the wrong stuff. Here you have too little of the right stuff that can cause shortages and stockouts. Here you have excess inventory that's burning a hole in your balance sheet. This will be real time. It's based on your future customer demands and forecasts, not created based on some forecast algorithms that are highly inaccurate, and that gives you data in real time. So this can be used to drive your future purchasing so that you can minimize the effects of Bi-Modal inventory distribution. You can smooth that out, and you can be in the middle of that camel hump like we discussed in the beginning. So that's what the power of days of supply. You're going from quantities to days of supply. You're going from using spreadsheets to an integrated solution that includes your supply chain partners' data and what's within your four walls. And you're able to accurately predict when you're going to run out. So we talked about the predictive capability, and then it can also prescribe when you need to buy these parts. Jerry, do you have anything to add to this slide?
I don't have anything to add. I like this slide because you can apply this, you can use AI in your global supply chain, not only for what the metric here, the KPI that we have, days of supply, but you can use this for other things that you know is going on with your own inventory, with your suppliers, what they have in their inventory. So for instance, something as vital as how much time. I have a metric of how much time my people are spending with a certain supplier. Is that good or bad? How profitable is this certain supplier versus another one? Do I want to spend all my time spending my time and resources, my scarce resources, with somebody who's not profitable, who's on the edge, so to speak? Or do I want to spend more time with those folks that I have very good profit with? Who's my best customers? Taking it beyond the business intelligence.
Now, Jerry and I, a couple of ex-IBMers, we spent many years in the integration business, application integration business, and we know that if you're on the left side, if you have no integration within your enterprise and with your supply chain partners, your organization is going to struggle. The better integration, more integration you have, the better your operational efficiency and operational success. And you want to be on the right side. And when I talked about the operational data store, the right side is the foundation for that operational data store, and that's the foundation for all the supply chain AI. If you don't have the integration, then you can't get to supply chain AI, and your organization is going to struggle. And that's the bottom line. So this is where you want to get to. You want to get to the right side so you can get away from all those damn spreadsheets.
Correct. And what you're seeing here on the right side where we have the arrows, well, we're only listing 3 types of, systems out there. But obviously, most enterprises, most business businesses have a lot more than 3. They may have 10, 40, 50, 100. And if you replace any one of those and you have your interfaces all already defined, depending on how you're doing those interfaces, you may have what we call brittle enterprise. And by brittle, I mean you replace one component, and guess what? You're knocking down not only that component, but you're knocking down whatever it's interfacing with. So you may be knocking down 7 or 8 plus applications by replacing something that doesn't have a very good structure of integrating data with other applications that are out there, whether they're with your customer, within your own 4 walls, or somebody else, i.e. your supplier. So you don't want brittle integration.
Okay. At this point, I'll turn over to Roger and kind of do a quick recap before we turn it over to Roger. So here's the recap in terms of data. Where's my inventory within the 4 walls and outside? Simple reasoning, when will we run out of inventory? Decision making, who will be my best suppliers, my worst suppliers, and for judgment, for example, will we overpay our suppliers? And kind of a quick recap for supply chain AI. And in the interest of time, I'm going to turn it over to Roger and take you to slide 23 for Roger. Roger, take it away.
Oh, thank you. And I think you guys actually made a really great point. I think most companies today, it doesn't matter if you're in the manufacturing, transportation, distribution, finance industries. Most of the companies that I talk to anymore, I mean, they started out as like an 8 to 5 operation. They went to 7 to 7. Now they've gone to 24/7. But I think the big thing is that it's the whole business to business integration that all companies have implemented over the last 10 to 15 years, which means that, you know, if you're a manufacturing company, yeah, you might be manufacturing the items, but you're getting your orders or you're getting data from another company. So taking your IBM to the cloud. So with LightEdge Solutions, we actually came out with a cloud product specifically around IBM AS400. The things I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of minutes, they apply to IBM AS400. They apply to IBM AIX. They apply to mainframe. They apply to your traditional Windows workload. So it's not the pains and the challenges that I'm talking about aren't specifically solely on IBM AS400. But I'm going to talk about IBM I. So taking your IBM I to the cloud, why are customers now talking about or doing their research with moving their IBM AS400 to the cloud? A lot of it is around avoiding the pitfalls of doing a CapEx purchase. We've all been there. If you've done systems administration or if you relied on having to make acquisition around technology, that typically, from a CFO standpoint, you know, the total cost of ownership or the ROI model is really based on that 5 to 10 year model. And so when you're purchasing equipment, you're purchasing networks, you're having to guesstimate where your workload is going to be, how much disk that you're going to use, how much memory over the next 5 to 10 years. When you're having a conversation with the business, the businesses anymore aren't doing a 3-year strategy plan. They tend to look at you and say, you know, that they're making changes on a monthly basis or, you know, every 6 months or reevaluating their business strategy. So the reason why a lot of our customers are talking to us is because they can't keep up with the business requirements. And so by moving to the cloud, you're not stranded on the hardware for the next 5 to 10 years. You're not reliant on I can only afford to purchase internal DASB or internal disks. I don't have to worry about, you know, the complications for staying compliant with my operating system upgrades. There's a lot of customers that we deal with that are still frozen at v5.r4 or even 6.1 and most recently 7.1. So by taking it to the cloud, you basically you're shifting that responsibility for making sure that you can upgrade your operating system to the most current version that IBM releases. And I think the last item is really around adjusting to new security compliance. We just held a CIO forum in Omaha this last week, and one of the challenges that came out from all the companies that attended is really the unknown security compliance that's being driven down, by either government or by finance, even during the health industries, right? So a lot of companies are kind of at the wit's end in regards to how do they stay compliant to new regulations that are being pushed down. So what the cloud affords you, and again, this applies to either Microsoft workload, right, IBM AS400 AIX mainframe. It really allows you to grow your workload or your system based on business growth. There's a direct correlation to that. So the days of I'm going to spend $1 million and hope that I'm going to use all the capacity that I've guesstimated on. You can literally dial up the amount of CPW. You can dial up the amount of RAM. You can increase your storage based off of your business growth. If you're looking to a cloud provider, one of the questions you should be asking is, do you have different tiers of storage? And so as my business grows, or if I need more IOPS, can the cloud provider actually move your workload to faster storage? So this is in the world of the AS400 when we're dealing with manufacturing companies, distribution, healthcare, finance. The traditional IBM AS400 customer, and again, the reason why you purchase an AS400 is because it could do everything. In today's world with AI, again, the traditional AS400 customer is going to go out, they're going to buy a system, it's going to be of some known size. If you're a mid-sized business, you probably couldn't afford to purchase an all-flash SAN array. You couldn't afford to buy the faster system. And so your transactional workload is occurring on the most stable system, right, that IBM has delivered, which is the power system. As organizations are wanting to know more about how do I massage the data, how do I apply AI, right? How do I get better reports to my business units? Again, it's that question of, do you introduce additional workload to a system that may not be able to support it, or do I look at a different analytic system model? And again, a lot of our customers are looking at, I'm going to continue my day-to-day operation going against the IBM AS400, and maybe what I end up doing is I replicate my data real time. So in this case, I'm replicating my data from DB2 to another database platform like Microsoft SQL Server, and then I can apply the data analytics, the data tooling, right, the software packages that are what I would consider more mainstream, and do my analytics model going across a Microsoft SQL Server database. So with LightEdge Solutions, we actually view ourselves as and again, I'm going to use the word compliant hybrid solution center. Again, our mindset is that the customer or that business actually has to determine where that workload needs to run. If you're a manufacturing company and your system needs to talk to the equipment sitting on the manufacturing line, is that workload conducive for the cloud? Probably not today, not if you have access to reliable networks. However, if you have workload that needs to be on 24/7, then maybe that workload should get transitioned into, right, a redundant data center. And again, I termed the coin, or I stated that the way that we like to view our hybrid solution centers is it's compliant hybrid solution center. Again, a lot of organizations are looking at how do I meet compliance around my applications and around my workload. Again, transferring that responsibility, shifting that liability over to, right, the solution provider. So in a lot of situations, our customers will just pick up their gear, put it into our data center as colo, and then they afford, right, they afford the luxury of getting our compliance around how we manage our facilities, how we manage our networks. And then for those customers that want to extend or basically to mitigate risk, they can extend their workload into any of our cloud solutions. So we do everything from virtual private cloud to bare metal cloud, which is the way I like to think of it. It's really infrastructure as a service. We can extend natively either your VMware or Hyper-V environment. We have private cloud for customers that need the ultimate security. And then we do have cloud for IBM AS400 and AIX, as well as mainframe, which is indicative through our Power Cloud and our Z Cloud offering. The other thing that we also recognize is that, again, our cloud solutions reside in all of our data centers. And so, for those customers that want to take advantage of different geographical regions, we will extend that cloud offering across our redundant data centers. And then the most critical component is that everybody at some point in time is going to be consuming the Microsoft Cloud, the Google Cloud, the AWSs, or even the IBM Cloud. And so if that workload is critical for your business operations, we want to make sure that we can extend your cloud experience from your on-premise implementation through our hybrid solution centers out to the Microsoft or out to the public clouds. So again, the whole hybrid concept or the hybrid data centers is really where LightEdge is providing value for their customers. The other thing to note, again, what does LightEdge Cloud support? We support Microsoft workloads, Linux, AIX, IBM I, mainframe. So for those customers that are what I would call your traditional IBM AS400 customers, I believe that the days of running solely on IBM AS400, a lot of companies have Microsoft servers, Linux servers, right, even integration with mainframe. And so for those companies that, again, want to get on the way from to move towards a digital transformation, to get away from owning hardware, to shifting responsibility and skill set to the infrastructure and the operating system, we can support this entire layer. And so I think the other thing to note is that, again, with the compliance solutions, and we show this within our chart, is that a lot of customers are kind of fearful of cloud. And so we show where the customer has responsibility and where we have responsibility as a solutions provider. And so again, we are going to meet you where you need to be met. And so if you look at the far left side where it says the colo, the cage, and the private suite, LightEdge is just responsible for our data centers. We're responsible for our electrical infrastructure, our cooling infrastructure, the networks that come into our facilities. The responsibility for your technology platform stays within your control. As organizations want to refocus their IT skill set to be more in line with the business, again, they can shift those responsibilities over to the service provider. In this case, it's going to be LightEdge. So the other things to note with our compliance solutions is that we provide business continuity for our customers. We can provide the connectivity. We layer in our security, and then to accomplish a lot of things that we can't do, we rely heavily on our partner ecosystem. The things to note is that our security or our framework relies heavily on ISO 27001, ISO 20000, and then the other concepts is around HIPAA compliance, PCI compliance, and then being audited for SOC Type 1, 2, and 3. The Power Cloud platforms are really the platforms, the LightEdge platforms. What are the benefits that our customers have gained by partnering with LightEdge? A lot of customers that are doing the application modernization, so specifically on the IBM AS400, going from a green screen to I need to modernize my UI, I need to get away from green screen, be able to go to applications that I can use via tablet, via phone, right, via desktops. Again, this is about risk mitigation. So with LightEdge, what we're doing is we're providing our customers the ability to copy their current production system, turn them into dev LPARs, test dev LPARs. They're doing a lot of their modernization effort on those systems and not impacting their day-to-day operation. Again, AS400 customers typically do not have the luxury of having multiple systems. They typically have a production system, which is their test and dev platform. The other benefit that we provided is taking customers that have been stranded on, let's say, V5R4, which is no longer supported, 6.1, and now 7.1. We've provided the mechanism to help those customers upgrade their operating systems to the most current version, have them run on our platform, and then work with our customers to determine the level of control, the level of responsibility they want in the operating system. So we can be their systems admin for the IBM AS400 within our cloud platform, or if those customers are wanting AS400 or Windows or whatever administration on their equipment sitting within their four walls or within a rack in our data center, we can provide that. With AS400 customers, the other benefit that we're providing is production platform improvements. So as you would expect with a service provider, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that we work with our IBM business partners. We work with IBM to make sure that we're delivering the enterprise components of our Power Cloud platform. So we have IBM B9000 all-flash storage array with encryption turned on. We've got the latest power systems. We're providing the fastest access to the storage for our customers, as well as VTL access. And so that's typically things that customers couldn't afford. And so for most of our customers that have migrated from their dedicated systems onto our cloud platform, they've seen performance benefits just because of the enterprise infrastructure. And then I already talked about stranded operating systems. The next one is disaster recovery. Businesses today, specifically around IBM AS400, I would say AIX and mainframe, they haven't really had the luxury of having what I would say a proven or tested disaster recovery model. Again, as businesses have gone from 8 to 5, 7 to 7 to 24 by 7, disaster recovery is really important for those organizations that are literally, their business model is pennies per pound or pennies per foot in regards to their offering. So any amount of minutes, hours that their system is down, they're going to lose revenue. So with LightEdge, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that we have provided, I would consider it the best of breed disaster recovery solutions around IBM AS400.
Well, thanks so much for that information, Roger, Sri, and Jerry. We do have some time left, so I wanted to go ahead and address any questions that anyone has. For those of you on the line, feel free to input your questions now in the Q&A box. And we have received a few questions here throughout our time. The first one is, what costs and resources are necessary to implement this type of solution?
So, Caroline, is that for us or for Roger?
Yes, Sri. It's for you.
So the cost, and like Jerry likes to say, this is a typical consulting answer, but it will kind of vary depending on your size and the scope of the exercise. But one thing I'll assure you, it's far less expensive than the amount spent on an ERP system. So it's far less expensive, and the return on investment of these solutions are going to be considerably faster and higher than what you've seen in the past. So I like to say you're going to be pleasantly surprised in terms of the pricing, but it's going to be considerably cheaper than what you spent on-premise and legacy systems.
Thank you for that. And then the other question is, what kind of disruption can they expect when implementing something like this? Like, will there be any disruption? Will there be any downtime? What should they keep in mind?
Yeah, so historically, anytime companies implement a big system, they have been mentally scarred and trained to go through a significant amount of disruptions. But that's no longer the case now. So with these kind of systems, especially if you go with a complementary solution to your existing systems, we can make it very minimally disruptive. Things will be running operationally, no problems, and your users will be able to adopt these systems fairly quickly as well. So the disruptions are going to be minimal and minimal downtime as well.
Great, good to hear. And now this question is for you, Roger. After migrating to the cloud, do I need to maintain my hardware, my software, and licenses with IBM, or how does that work?
So once a customer migrates over to our LightEdge Power Cloud platform, we assume again, the responsibility for providing the IBM operating system license, which also includes the software support with the operating system. As in regards to the hardware maintenance, again, right, as a service provider, that's our responsibility to make sure that all the equipment that we've deployed as part of the cloud offering is under IBM hardware and software support. The customer then can drop their support if they want to continue to reuse their system. Again, they can do that, or we actually have partnerships for legacy systems that we can introduce for those avenues as well.
And then are customers responsible for maintaining their operating system and backups, or is that also something that LightEdge handles?
So with our cloud platform and the way that the IBM AS400 community works, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we could provide is the same experience for those customers that are running AS400, which means that if they have AS400 administrators, they can continue to manage the operating system. If they're leveraged with a managed service provider to provide those services that have what I would call years of knowledge on the organization, those MSPs can manage the LPARs. If the customer would like LightEdge to manage the operating system and the backups, we can absolutely do that.
Perfect. Thanks for answering that. Is there anything else that any of you would like to add, just kind of final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to add that for any AS400 customers on the call today with millions of lines of custom RPG code, there is a better future. There's a light at the end of all this, and there's something that can make their lives a whole lot better, and without massive disruption or massive budgets, we can get them to a new platform fairly quickly, whether it's on LightEdge, Power Series environment, or something completely different from a pure cloud multi-tenant solution supply chain AI platform. So you have multiple options, and things will be much better in the new world.
Anybody else? Roger? Jerry, excuse me.
My only comment at the end here would be, guess what is providing all of this impetus, whether it's for, I'll call it the hosting cloud component or software AI component, and the common thread here is speed, efficiency, and technology is providing you, the human, augmented tools to help you. And by augmented, faster, better, so you can do more with less.
Well said, Jerry.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate you guys spending time with us today. Thanks to all our participants. And as I mentioned previously, I will be following up with you via email so that you guys have a copy of all of this and our contact information in case you have any additional questions or want to give us a call and chat some more about what we discussed today. Thanks so much and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.